Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another webinar with Milo in Spain. Today, we're covering holiday rentals and what you need to do in order to register your property for holiday rentals. And as we've got 17 different autonomous regions in Spain, we've got my colleague Laura from our Ciudad Quesada office going to talk about the Valencian region. And then we've got Patricia from our Andalusia office and Marbella office is going to talk about Andalusia, and then we'll also talk about other regions generally as we act for clients buying property all over Spain and renting them. So let's start off straight away with some of the questions. Laura, when is the touristic license needed and what is it?
Okay, so the touristic license is basically a document that will allow you to rent your property as a touristic accommodation. Okay, so this license is needed when you have a property that you want to rent it out for touristic, holiday, or leisure purposes. Okay, regardless of the length of the rent. Okay, so there's no fixed term for a rental to be considered as touristic accommodation. But the main thing is its purpose, okay? So if it's for holiday purpose, then you need this license. Likewise, if this is, if your property is being advertised through tourism marketing channels or by a company that manages this type of touristic accommodations, then you will also need this license. So, on the contrary, if you rent it out for someone who's going to use the property for their main residence, even if it's for short term, you won't need it because it's not considered as holiday. Okay, but now you have to take into account that each region has its own rules and its own registry as well. So by obtaining this license, your property will be listed in a registry, which then could be publicly accessed by anyone.
Okay. So basically, anyone who rents the property out for short-term holiday lets needs a license, and if it's a long-term rent, kind of 3 months or more, then they don't require a license generally.
Yeah, but the main thing is the touristic, the holiday purpose.
Holiday purpose, yeah. Okay, excellent. So, as you know, Patricia, we act for lots of clients buying property all over Spain. And one of the things we do ask them right up front is whether they want to rent the property, so that when we are looking at the paperwork for the purchase, we can tell them whether or not they could rent it. So tell us, what are the requirements then that the property would need to meet in order to rent it for holiday rentals?
Well, regardless of where the property is located, in general, each property to be rented should have the following. All bedrooms and living room must have direct ventilation to the exterior. This is very important. And also, each property has to have some form of system to dark the windows, blinds or shutters. It's important, of course, that the property is sufficiently furnished and keep for immediate use according to the number of places or the guests that are going to go to the property. It's important, of course, that the property has hot water. There is a first aid kit also available for the guest, and that there is a complaints book available for the tenants. This is in general. But there are some other special requirements that are compulsory depending on where the property is located. For example, in Andalusia, having a license of first occupation is mandatory. And this is a key point because depending on where this property was built, the age of the property, you may have it or not. In some cases, if there is not a license of first occupation, we can obtain an alternative document from the town hall. And that document will allow registration with the Andalusian Tourism Registry. However, this has to be analyzed per case. Other special requirements, for example, in the Alicante region, prior to the registration with the Tourism Registry, it is necessary to obtain an urbanistic certificate from the town hall, confirming basically that this property is suitable to be used for touristic rentals. The cost of this certificate, it also varies, but will be of between 70 to 90 euros and can take up to 2 months to be issued. Also in that area, in Alicante, it's also compulsory to put a sign outside the property confirming that that property is registered with the tourism authorities. That is also happening in Murcia. Other specialties in the Canaries, a property can only be rented out for touristic purposes if that property has already a touristic license and the complex where the property is located it's the one that is ruling the rentals. In the Balearic Island, you need to purchase a license, which is known as beds, to the town hall, according to the number of guests that you intend to have at the property. And a particular person cannot have more than 3 houses in touristic rentals. Also, it's very important to know that in the islands, some parts can be restricted to a maximum of days per year of holiday rentals. Therefore, it's in general, it's very important to do these checks prior to completion if your plan is to use that property for holiday rentals.
Okay, so in effect, we're looking at case by case and region by region. So we need to find out, and actually, when someone's looking at a property, they should be talking to the agent and letting them know that they wish to rent the property out, and that agent should know whether or not a touristic license could be obtained or not. Okay. So Laura, what are the fees for registration?
Well, again, this depends on the region. In Comunidad Valenciana and Andalusia, there are no charges for obtaining this license, whereas in Murcia, the first one can be obtained for free, but then the second one will be paid according to the number of places that are available. This ranges from between 60 and 70 euro for 2 places to 86 euro for properties of more than 8 places.
Okay, so the fees are kind of quite reasonable, and then we of course would charge legal costs to assist with the registration online, or in the case, for example, the Valencian region, to apply for that certificate from the town hall confirming it's compatible, etc. But yeah, certainly if you're considering renting your property, send us an email and we can let you know what the costs are to deal with that registration process. So on that basis, Patricia, how long does the process actually take?
Well, here in Andalusia, we can help you submitting the application online. In general, we will obtain the identification code that must be included in all online advertisement automatically. But however, if the property is rustic, then it can take a few months until we receive the final registration code.
Okay, and Laura, same question. In the Valencian region, how long does it take to get the touristic license?
So it could take a bit longer because we need to obtain the certificate from the town hall that Patricia was mentioning before, and this normally is received within 2 months. So only once we have received this document can we submit the license. Okay.
And then, Patricia, when can I start renting my property? Can I rent it from the day I purchased, the day of the application, or when I get the license? When can I do that?
You can start renting the property since the moment your application is submitted to the tourism authorities. So in Andalusia and Murcia in general, we will obtain the registration code at the same moment that your application is submitted. But in Alicante, as Laura has said, it typically can take 8 to 12 weeks for the final registration code to arrive. But you can start renting the property from the very moment your application is submitted to the tourist authorities.
Okay, and then generally speaking, we act for clients buying in the Balearics and the Canaries as well. And usually, because those destinations are kind of fairly restrictive on issuing these holiday licenses, most properties will come with the licenses in place. So as soon as you've purchased that property, we would transfer the license over into your name, and then we would register. Then you can start renting the property as well. Okay, so Laura, what are the duties of the landlord? I'm the landlord now, and I want to rent it out to holiday tenants. What have I got to do?
So once you've obtained your license, generally speaking, you will need to have complaints forms available at the accommodation. And then if your property is located in Comunidad Valenciana or Murcia, you will also need to have a sign outside the property to show that it's a touristic accommodation. Moreover, in Comunidad Valenciana, you need to have a civil responsibility insurance, civil liability insurance, sorry, to cover any possible damages that are caused during the rental. Okay, and in general terms as well, all landlords must notify the police or the Guardia Civil they must inform them when they have new tenants coming to the property.
So you've got to rent. So basically, you've got to take copies of the passports of the tenants coming in and notify the police, and that's something that your local agent can deal with. And also in Andalusia, Patricia, I understand you've got to hold on to these documents in the contract for at least a year.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, good. All right. So, Laura, what happens if there's a change of ownership, or if I want to stop the holiday rentals?
Yeah, so every time there is an alteration to the license, change of ownership, or the type of rental or accommodation, you need to notify this to the registry, the corresponding registry. And the same if you want to stop renting it out for these purposes, you will have to notify, so they register your property from the registry.
Okay. And this is the nasty question, Patricia, right? The last one for you. Okay. Do I have to pay tax on the income I generate?
Well, unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
You start renting your property, you are obligated to submit quarterly tax returns on income generated and costs incurred in maintaining and handling the rentals. These costs can be deducted if you are renting the property and you are a tax resident of the EU. Okay? If you are using the property as a holiday home for you and your friends, these costs are, of course, non-deductible. Deductible costs. What we understand for deductible costs? Community fee, IBI, rates, SUMA or town hall bills, the interest on mortgage payments that you are doing if you have a loan on the property. If you have a company that is doing that it's managing the rentals for you, you can also deduct those company fees and also the legal fees for submitting those quarterly tax returns. It's important and to bear in mind that these costs are only deductible if you are a resident of the European Union.
Okay. So Patricia, if you're a non-European, a British person, American or Canadian, or you live in a non-EU country, what is the rate of tax that you pay?
The rate of tax for non-EU citizens is at 24%. Right. Compared to a 19% if you are resident of any of the EU countries, and also a part of having a better rate, you can deduct some expenses.
So basically, non-Europeans pay 24% and they can't deduct any costs. Europeans pay 19% and they can deduct all the relative costs proportional to the rental.
That's it. Also, it's important to consider that if you generate rental income in Spain, you have to pay tax in Spain on that income. But also, you may have to declare that income in your home country and maybe pay additional taxes there. Okay, cool. Okay. Well, listen, thank you very much. That brings our webinar today to an end. And please look at other videos on our YouTube channel. And feel free to send us any questions or comments on this video. Thank you very much.